Picture the biggest building in your town. Now lay it on its side and float it. That's roughly the size of the ship we're talking about. It's 1,300 feet long, taller than the Eiffel Tower if you stood it up. It weighs over 200,000 tons fully loaded, and it's carrying 20,000 steel boxes stacked 12 high, packed with everything from your sneakers to your phone to the coffee in your kitchen. Now here's the part that doesn't make sense. The number of people running this floating city? Around 20, sometimes fewer. 20 people. On a machine the length of 4 football fields. Moving across an ocean that can swallow it whole, 24 hours a day, for weeks at a time, with no one coming to help if something goes wrong. And most of the time, more than half of that crew is asleep. There are 3 layers to this story. The first is how they split up time so the ship never stops. The second is the technology that lets a machine this enormous basically run itself. And the third is what actually happens in the middle of the night, when almost everyone is in bed, and the ship is still doing 46,000 horsepower straight through the dark. By the end of this, you'll understand how the thing that delivered 90% of what you own is run by fewer people than work at your local grocery store. So let's start with the obvious problem. The ship never stops, ever. A container ship at sea doesn't pull over. It doesn't park. Every hour it sits still costs the company tens of thousands of dollars. So once it leaves port, that engine runs continuously, sometimes for 2 straight weeks, until it reaches the other side of the planet, which means somebody has to be awake and in control every single minute of every single day. Storms at 3 a.m. Fog at dawn. Another ship crossing your path at midnight. The ocean doesn't care that you're tired. So how do 20 people cover 24 hours without anyone collapsing? The answer is a system that's over 100 years old, and it's the reason the whole thing works. It's called the watch. The crew is split into shifts, but sailors don't call them shifts. They call them watches. And the classic setup divides the day into blocks. 4 hours on, 8 hours off, then back on again. One officer stands watch from noon to 4 p.m., and again from midnight to 4 a.m. Another takes 4 to 8. Another takes 8 to 12. Around the clock, forever, the same rhythm. Here's why that 4-hour number matters. Staring at the ocean is more exhausting than it sounds. Your brain is scanning the horizon, watching the radar, tracking every blip that could be another ship, checking the engine data, and doing it while the floor is moving under you. Push a human past 4 hours of that, and their attention starts to crack. So the 4 hours on, 8 hours off structure isn't a tradition. It's engineered around the limits of the human brain. 4 hours is about how long you can stay genuinely sharp. 8 hours off is just barely enough to eat, sleep, and reset before you're back up there. But the watch only explains the people. It doesn't explain the ship. Because even with a perfect schedule, 20 humans physically cannot operate 20,000 containers and an engine the size of a house by hand. Something else is doing most of the work. And that something is the part almost nobody sees. Walk onto the bridge of one of these ships at sea, and the first thing you'll notice is how empty it is. This is the command center of a 1,300-foot vessel, and there might be exactly one person standing there. 1, maybe 2 if there's a lookout posted. That one person is called the officer of the watch, and they're not steering. Nobody's got their hands on a giant wheel like in the movies. The ship is being flown by an autopilot far more advanced than anything in a car, holding a course plotted across thousands of miles of open water. In front of the officer are screens, electronic charts that show the ship's exact position down to a few meters, radar that paints every vessel within 20-plus miles, a system that automatically identifies other ships, their names, their speed, their heading, and warns you long before you'd ever get close. The officer's real job isn't to drive, it's to monitor, to watch the watchers, to catch the one thing in 1,000 that the machines get wrong. And that's the whole philosophy of how this ship runs. The technology handles the routine, the human handles the exception. But the bridge is only half of it. Because 12 stories below, there's a second world running almost entirely on its own. And this is where it gets genuinely strange. Down at the bottom of the ship sits the engine, and engine barely covers it. Some of these are among the largest engines ever built by human beings, standing 4 stories tall, weighing over 2,000 tons, burning fuel by the ton every hour to turn a single propeller as wide as a house. When it's running, the noise and the heat are overwhelming. And for most of the night, there is not a single person standing next to it. That sounds insane until you learn the term for it. These ships are certified for something called UMS, Unmanned Machinery Space. It means the entire engine room is cleared to run with nobody physically down there watching it. The engineers go to bed. The 4-story engine keeps burning through the dark, alone. How is that allowed? Because the engine room is wired with hundreds of sensors: temperature, pressure, fuel flow, oil levels, vibration, cooling water, exhaust. Every system is monitored continuously by a computer, and the second any single reading drifts outside its safe range, an alarm doesn't just sound in the engine room. It goes off in the cabin of the duty engineer. It goes off on the bridge. There's even a system with a brutal name, the dead man alarm, that will escalate through the whole ship if the on-call engineer doesn't respond fast enough. Somebody is always accountable, even while they sleep. They're just not standing there watching a dial when a computer can do it better. So now you can start to see how the math works. The technology shrinks the crew down to the people who actually need to be there. But here's the question nobody asks. Who are those 20 people exactly? Because they're not interchangeable. Every one of them has a specific job, and if you lost the wrong one at the wrong moment, the whole system would be in serious trouble. At the very top is the captain, or master, full legal authority over the ship, the cargo, and every life on board. Below the captain is the deck department, the chief officer, who runs cargo, and the deck crew, then the second and third officers, each standing their own watch on the bridge. Then there's the engine department, a whole parallel command structure led by the chief engineer, with second, third, and fourth engineers keeping that giant machine alive. Below the officers are the ratings, the hands-on crew, the bosun, who's like the foreman of the deck, the able seamen and ordinary seamen who do lookout duty, maintenance, mooring, and the endless war against rust and salt. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, arguably one of the most important people on the ship, is the cook. Because here's a detail people underestimate. When you've got 20 people trapped together on a steel island for months, with no days off, no going home, no escape, the quality of dinner is not a small thing. A good cook holds the morale of the entire crew in his hands. Sailors have half-jokingly said you can lose an engineer and survive, but lose the cook and you've got a mutiny. So that's the crew. That's the structure. But knowing the roles still doesn't tell you what it actually feels like at 3 a.m. in the middle of the Pacific. And that's the part that surprises people most. Picture it. It's the middle of the night watch, the one from midnight to 4 a.m. The officer of the watch is alone on the bridge. Every light inside is either off or dimmed to deep red, because white light would blind you to the black ocean outside. The ship is thousands of miles from the nearest land. The nearest other human being who isn't on this ship might be hundreds of miles away. And it is quiet. Not silent. There's the low, constant hum of the engine coming up through the deck, a vibration you stop noticing after the first day. But no traffic, no voices, no phones. Just one person, a wall of dark glass, the soft glow of the radar, and 200,000 tons of steel gliding through the night at the pace of a fast bicycle. The people who do this job describe that watch in a way that stops you. They talk about stars you can't see from any city on Earth. They talk about being completely alone and completely responsible at the same time. And they talk about a kind of focus that doesn't exist anywhere on land, where for 4 hours, the only thing in the entire universe is you, the ship, and the sea. 20 people. One machine the size of a skyscraper, crossing the biggest empty spaces left on the planet in near total darkness, and somehow, night after night, getting it exactly right. So the next time a package shows up on your porch, remember it probably crossed an ocean on a ship like this, run by a crew you could fit on a single bus, most of them asleep while a 4-story engine burned through the dark on its own. Now I want to hear from you. Could you stand a 4-hour night watch, completely alone, in the middle of the ocean? Or would that quiet get to you? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you learned something today, hit like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.